In 2020, Kelis told The Guardian that the Neptunes promised to split everything 3 ways, then paid her nothing for her first 2 albums. She said she signed what she was told, and when she confronted them, their answer was simple. "You signed it." The internet called her bitter. For 6 years, that was the story. Then in January 2026, Pharrell's own partner, Chad Hugo, walked into a federal court and accused him of nearly the same thing: hiding money and taking credit that wasn't his. The quiet one, the man who stood beside Pharrell for 30 years, is now making the accusation Kelis got mocked for. So we traced every dollar we could actually prove. This is what we found, and what we couldn't. Start with who she actually was. Kelis Rogers grew up in Harlem, the daughter of a jazz saxophonist and minister who put her on a stage before she was 5 years old. She trained at LaGuardia, the performing arts high school in Manhattan. Her father died around the time her career was taking off, at the very start of the 2000s. And in 1998, through 2 producers a mutual friend had introduced her to, she signed with Virgin Records. Those 2 producers were Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo, the Neptunes. They built her first album from the ground up. Kaleidoscope came out in December 1999, and the lead single, Caught Out There, the one where she screams, "I hate you so much right now," made her one of the first black women the industry filed under alternative. Her second album, Wonderland, followed in 2001. Virgin barely put it out in the United States at all. Kelis said the people at Virgin who had actually understood her got laid off, and the ones who replaced them had no idea what to do with a black woman making something that sounded like no one else on the radio. Her biggest hit came a little later. In 2003, Milkshake from the album Tasty went to number 3 on the Billboard chart and stayed there for 5 straight weeks. It is the song most people still know her for. And here is a detail that matters for everything after it. Kelis is not credited as a writer on Milkshake. Pharrell and Chad are. She sang the most famous record of her life, and the writing credit, with all the publishing money that comes with it, went to the 2 producers. The album it came from, Tasty, sold more than 500,000 copies in the United States. Which brings us to the thing that stayed quiet for 2 decades. According to Kelis, she did not see real money from those early records. She told The Guardian in 2020 that she was promised an even split, a third to Pharrell, a third to Chad, a third to her, and that it simply never happened. Her words were that she had been blatantly lied to and tricked. She said she did not even notice for years, because touring paid enough that not being broke felt like winning. We want to be precise about what that claim is and is not. It is Kelis's account, given to one newspaper 6 years ago. Pharrell and Chad did not respond to it at the time. There is no lawsuit behind it, no filing, no number a court ever tested. So we are going to tag it for exactly what it is. An allegation, a serious one, from the artist herself, but unproven. Then in 2022, it got louder. Beyoncé released her album Renaissance, and one of its songs, Energy, interpolated a 1999 Kelis track called Get Along With You. Kelis went straight to Instagram. "It is not a collab," she wrote. "It is theft. Publishing was stolen. People were swindled out of rights." Beyoncé's team quietly removed the interpolation. Some of Beyoncé's fans turned on Kelis, telling her Beyoncé had made her relevant for a single day. Kelis fired back that nobody had cried for her. And that reaction, on its own, told you something. Kelis was still this angry about the same wound 22 years later. So how does an artist sell millions of records and walk away with nothing? This is the part almost every video about Kelis skips, because it is less satisfying than the word stolen. But it is where the truth actually lives. Start with who wrote the songs. On that first album, Kelis has a writing credit on 3 tracks. 3. Pharrell and Chad wrote nearly everything else. Under the way music publishing works, the people who write the song own the song, and they collect the publishing on it. So the money from those compositions was always going to flow mostly to the 2 producers, not to the voice singing them. A promised 3-way split would have been a favor, a decision to cut her in on money that, on paper, was already theirs. Now add the recording side of it. A new artist signs the rights to the master recordings over to the label. Before that artist ever sees a cent of royalty, the label recoups, which means it pays itself back first for the advance, the studio time, the production costs. On a debut, that whole can swallow the artist's entire share. Touring income sits separate from all of it, which is exactly why Kelis said she did not notice for years. Put those 2 things side by side, a young singer who co-wrote a fraction of her own album and signed the paperwork that was put in front of her, and you do not need theft to explain zero. You need a standard record deal from the 1990s. Billboard, looking back on it, put Kelis's situation in the same breath as artists like Mace, and called deals like these legal, even standard, and deeply unfair, all at the same time. And this is the wall we ran into, honestly. We wanted to show you the actual contract. We can't. Kelis never sued, so the specific terms of her Virgin deal, how the publishing was assigned, what the split sheet said, have never been made public. What we can give you is her account, and the ordinary machinery of a deal like hers. The one thing we can't do is put the actual paper on screen, because that paper is sealed. For 20 years, the easiest way to dismiss Kelis was to say she was one bitter artist with a story nobody could ever check. That defense started falling apart in 2024, when the person who cracked it open turned out to be Chad Hugo himself, Pharrell's own partner. Here is the strange part. Back in 2022, a reporter from Vulture asked Chad directly about Kelis's claim. His answer was almost a shrug. He said he had heard about how she felt, but that he did not handle that side of things, that he usually hired business people for that kind of stuff. At the time, it read like a man keeping his distance from someone else's mess. Read it again after 2026. And it reads completely differently. Because the man who said he did not handle the money is now the one demanding to see the books. And Kelis and Chad are not even the only 2. Pusha T, one of the biggest artists the Neptunes ever signed through their label Star Trek, has spent years telling people how the business really worked underneath the hits. He has said that as a young act on that label, he wrote one of the most recognizable jingles in America, the McDonald's "I'm Loving It" hook, and took a single flat check for it, no ownership, no royalties, on a campaign that has now run for more than 20 years. His own lesson from it was blunt: keep your publishing. Star Trek, that label, was something the 2 of them built together back in 2001, and a lot of the era's music ran through it, from Clips to Snoop Dogg to Robin Thicke. That is 3 different people, from 3 different eras of the same operation, telling a version of the same story. Every time, the credit and the leverage and the money stayed with the name out front. Before we get to what Chad actually filed, one quick thing. If you are watching this on a television, you can still back this channel. Pick up your remote, move over to the like button on the screen, and press it. Then hit subscribe right beside it. That is it. It tells YouTube to put these forensic money breakdowns in front of more people, and it is the only thing we ask for. All right, back to the filing. On January 23rd, 2026, Chad Hugo filed suit against Pharrell Williams in federal court in the Central District of California. The case is on the public docket, and the path it took to get there matters, because it started 2 full years before the lawsuit, and it started over a single word: the name. In 2024, Chad's lawyers went to the trademark office and opposed 3 separate attempts by Pharrell's company to register the Neptunes as a trademark. The name of the duo, filed under one man's holding company. Chad's filing accused Pharrell of acting in bad faith, of trying to lock down a name that belonged to both of them. Pharrell's representative said close to the opposite, that they had reached out more than once to share ownership of it, and that the whole point was to stop some outside party from grabbing the name first. That trademark fight is still not settled. Then came the money. In the lawsuit, Chad accuses Pharrell of self-dealing, of concealing information, and of diverting revenue that he was owed. The single largest figure attached to it concerns the 2017 Nerd album, No One Ever Really Dies, the one with the hit Lemon featuring Rihanna. For that record alone, the filing puts the money Chad says he is owed somewhere in the range of a few $100,000, with the total potentially climbing toward $1 million once punitive damages are counted in. Chad says he had been trying to get a proper look at the financial records since 2021 and kept being unable to. The obvious question is, why now? Why wait 30 years? Watch your former partner become a knight and a fashion executive, and only walk into a courtroom now. In his telling, the suit came only after years of quietly asking to see the numbers and getting nowhere every single time. In the filing, Chad describes himself as the principal composer, the arranger, the multi-instrumentalist, the one doing the programming and the sound design, while Pharrell, in his words, more often appeared as the public-facing member of the duo. That single phrase, public-facing member, is the entire lawsuit compressed into one line. Pharrell's side pushed back hard. His representative called the lawsuit premature and said a standard accounting review was already underway. If that review finds money is owed, the statement said, the appropriate party will pay it. Pharrell, it added, has great respect for Chad and looks forward to resolving it. Then, in March 2026, Chad's team amended the complaint, and this is the part where we have to slow down, because this is where a lot of other channels are getting it wrong. The amendment added copyright claims over 8 songs from 2022, arguing Chad had been left off the credits. And the version of this you will see everywhere online is that Pharrell erased him from 8 tracks. That is not quite what the record actually shows. On some of those 8, yes, Chad appears to be missing. On the Pharrell solo song Cash In Cash Out and on Latto's track Real One, the current public credits do not list him. But on at least one of the 8, a track by the artist Nigo, Chad is already there, listed among 14 writers. So the clean story of total erasure does not survive contact with the actual credits. And 2 of the 8 songs we could not verify one way or the other at all. There is also a reason those copyright claims may have been added that has almost nothing to do with the songs themselves. Forbes reported that a judge questioned whether the case even belonged in federal court, and that the copyright claims were likely added to keep it there. Copyright carries a 3-year clock. Those songs were already several years old by the time that claim was added, which means parts of it may be too late to bring it all. Underneath those song credits sits the real engine of the case, the contract and the royalty money. That is the part that actually lines up with what Kelis had been saying for years. There is one more number worth setting next to all of this, and it happens to be the one number in this entire story that a court already finalized. In 2015, a jury in Los Angeles found that Blurred Lines, the Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams song, had copied Marvin Gaye's 1977 record, Got to Give It Up. The Gaye family had asked for $25 million. After the appeals were done, the final judgment landed in December 2018 at just under $5 million, $4,983,000, $768 to be exact. Split between Thicke, Williams, and Williams's publishing company, plus half of all future royalties from the song. Sit with what that actually means. A court has already decided, on the record, that Pharrell Williams took something musical that was not his and had to pay for it. And this one is not in dispute. A jury sat through the evidence, an appeals court backed them up, and a dollar figure got attached to Pharrell's name. And it is the exact accusation his own partner is now making against him from the other side. That credit and money belonging to someone else kept ending up with Pharrell. We should be clear that these two cases are not legally identical. The Blurred Lines case is finished, decided years ago. Chad's has barely started. But if you are wondering why so many people believed Chad Hugo the second he filed, and why they are suddenly going back and rereading everything Kelis said years earlier, that judgment from 2018 is a large part of the answer. It is worth pausing on the gap between these people, too. Estimates of Pharrell's fortune run well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. We want to flag that plainly. Those are outside estimates, not audited numbers, and this channel does not treat them as fact. But the direction of it is not really in dispute. He is the creative director of menswear at Louis Vuitton. He co-owns fashion labels. And on that same January day, the lawsuit was filed. The president of France knighted him inside the presidential palace in Paris. Kelis, by those same rough estimates, is worth a tiny fraction of what he is. So where does that leave Kelis, the person this whole thing actually started with? She left music behind, mostly. She went to culinary school, trained as a saucier, and built a food line she called Bounty and Full. She wrote a cookbook. She raises animals on a farm out in California now. When you ask what she got out of being one of the defining voices of a sound that made other people extremely rich, the honest answer is a whole career she built somewhere else entirely. She never got the contract unsealed. No judgment ever came in her name. There is still not one single dollar figure that a court has signed off on for her. To this day, everything she said back in 2020 remains exactly what it was. It is her word, still unproven, and now impossible to ignore. Because the man who stood next to Pharrell for 30 years walked into a courtroom and said a version of it under his own name. And the difference between Kelis and Chad was never about who was telling the truth. It was about who had the paperwork to make people finally listen.